Hi. So I get the pleasure of being the last presentation before lunch, so everyone's cranky and starved. I know I am. So my name's Karishma, and I am the product manager for New Relic Infrastructure based in San Francisco. For those of you who aren't familiar with what infrastructure is, and hopefully all of you in this room are, hopefully this presentation provides you with some context about what the product is, what it does, what the roadmap is, and how it generally fits into the New Relic ecosystem and benefits our customers. So I was promised a bottle of wine by legal for showing the slide. Cool. So how many people, by a show of hands, how many people in this room are responsible for any kind of infrastructure management, monitoring, keeping it running, supporting your dev teams, app teams? OK, so a significant number of you. That's cool. So hopefully, you're not using the same tools that you were 5 years ago and 10 years ago. And hopefully, your infrastructure setup doesn't look the same as it did 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So we all know infrastructure monitoring is changing. But what are the three main components that any person responsible for monitoring infrastructure should in 2017, in today's day and age, sort of pay attention to? There's dynamism, and dynamism basically contains everything with respect to the setup of your infrastructure. So if I'm a fully on-prem infrastructure, if I'm fully in the cloud, if I'm hybrid, how is my infrastructure scaling? Is it a multi-cloud infrastructure? Do I have containers? Do I have auto-scale policies set up, et cetera? So dynamism is definitely a major component of infrastructure monitoring. The other component is change. So Lou mentioned in the keynote how many times some of our customers deploy, how frequently they deploy, and how they need to move fast with confidence. So change is necessary to move forward. Change is absolutely a part of our deployment systems, but change isn't always good. And hopefully, all of you are familiar with Gartner's stat, where Gartner quotes that at least 40% of outages are caused by config changes. So being able to track what's changing, what its impact is on your infrastructure, on your dynamic infrastructure, is absolutely essential. And while I can go ahead and allocate as many resources and be as flexible to keep my applications and my infrastructure scaling, cost awareness is definitely a component that plays an important part in all of this. So we all have budgets. We all want to keep our CFOs happy and make sure that our teams are scaling and supporting the development of our applications and our businesses, but within the constraints of our costs and our budgets. So how do we scale? How do we be dynamic? How do we incorporate change and move fast with confidence, but keep cost as an important factor in all of this? So enter New Relic Infrastructure. So back in November 2015, New Relic acquired a startup based in San Francisco that was known for life state change tracking, and this startup was known as Opsmatic. So after acquiring this company, we built a technology from the ground up, from scratch, combining the technology from the startup along with New Relic's platform capabilities. And this came to be known as Meatballs in its private beta phase. So we announced the beta of this product back in FutureStack, back in August of 2016 at FutureStack New York. And at the time, what we didn't know is how much traction this beta would gain. Because if you think about it, our customers had the application monitoring side of it. So we were informing our customers how your application's performing, what the throughput is, what the response rate is. But knowing when something goes wrong with your application, whether it's an issue with the server deployment, whether it's whether it's a process issue, whether it's a config change, knowing that is absolutely essential. So at the time, we had 600 plus active beta customers engaged, providing feedback, which led us to launch the product, which is now known as New Relic Infrastructure, in November of 2016 at FutureStack San Francisco. So it's generally available, and it's actually going to turn 1 next month. So I'm super psyched about that. And of course, if you look at this slide, which is New Relic's digital intelligence platform that we offer for our customers, infrastructure fits organically into this piece, almost like into this puzzle, almost like the last missing piece. So you have the application monitoring side of it, you have the customer experience, and all of this is based on New Relic insights. So having infrastructure monitoring that provides end-to-end visibility so that your app and your operation teams can work together and incorporate a DevOps culture is absolutely essential. And of course, as we approach this, we want to support multi-clouds as well as incorporate with your existing tooling system, so your CI/CD tools and anything else you may have in place. So just a quick overview of what New Relic Infrastructure has added, or what we've added to New Relic Infrastructure since launch. So in the last 11 months, we've launched over 50 features. So since launch, we've added advanced alerting, which now allows you to create alerts, intelligent alerts, like host not reporting, process running alerts that apply to your containers, etc. We also added, in addition to the AWS integrations that we had at launch, we added a whole new component known as on-host integrations. And these are integrations not necessarily for your hosts, but for services that support your hosts. So things like Cassandra, Nginx, MySQL, Apache, Redis, etc. And along with this, we also launched an SDK that allows you to build custom integrations for any metrics and events that you may want to plug into infrastructure so that you're not blocked by our roadmap. In addition to this, we also announced our Containerized Agent. So this supports our customers that run container OSs like CoreOS, Rancher OS, that lack traditional package managers. So you can now deploy the infrastructure agent as an image, as a container, inside your container OS and monitor your containers as well as any underlying hosts that may be there. And lastly, last month in New York at FutureStack, we announced our Azure Integrations. So this perfectly fits in with New Relic's strategy to support the Microsoft ecosystem, as Lou mentioned earlier on. So I've referenced cloud integrations, but oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back. So I mentioned cloud integrations. So we've built New Relic infrastructure with our customers and the systems that they use in mind. So we want New Relic infrastructure to be infrastructure agnostic and support whatever cloud you're running and provide you with visibility about your systems, about your tools, and ultimately about the applications and the services that run on that infrastructure. So earlier this year, we announced 5 new AWS integrations at FutureStack London. And since then, only a quarter later, we added 6 new integrations to our AWS ecosystem. So now, with this addition, we have a total of 25 plus AWS integrations within infrastructure. So what's cool about these integrations is that it provides you with the application monitoring context side of things, as well as the underlying host, whether it's EC2 or it's an on-prem machine. And it allows you to sort of correlate this data with your AWS services to see how your ALB is performing, the number of requests. You can look at your VPC logs and see sort of the number of requests accepted, rejected, et cetera. So we have out-of-the-box predefined dashboards for your teams to understand your usage of your AWS services in the context of your infrastructure and applications. Next up, Microsoft Azure. So in addition to our AWS integrations that we have added to since launch, New Relic Infrastructure entered its multi-cloud strategy by supporting and adding new integrations for Microsoft Azure. And the first 5 integrations that are currently available in a public beta are Azure VMs, Cosmos DB, Functions, Service Bus, and Networks. What's cool about Azure VM and the integration is that the infrastructure agent is smart enough to know that it's running on a VM And it automatically imports all your tags and metadata associated with your Azure VMs and displays it in the UI. So you can create alerts, you can create views, et cetera, based on these tags and metadata. So it automatically adds and removes VMs, just like it does EC2 instances or hosts from these alert conditions and these views. So you set up your infrastructure configuration once, and it scales as your infrastructure scales. Next up, our container support. So as I mentioned, New Relic Infrastructure is built to be completely infrastructure agnostic. So what's cool about this is that you're only required to install the agent at the OS level on the host, and it monitors your containers automatically without requiring to be installed inside of the container. So whether you have applications that are running inside the container or on the host, it's going to monitor the performance of those applications in a correlated manner, as well as the performance of the containers themselves. And in addition to this, it automatically imports the labels and other metadata, like the image it's running, et cetera, associated with the container. So you can create really intelligent views as well as alert conditions by simply installing the agent on the host level. And as I mentioned, we announced our containerized agent that now supports CoreOS and allows customers running container OSs to deploy the infrastructure agent and use it and leverage it. This collects host and container metrics as well as container metadata. So these are just few of the highlights of features that we've added since launch back in November of 2016. However, we have a very exciting roadmap coming up for the next 6 to 12 months, the details of which we will be talking about in this afternoon's 202 session, as well as you can chat with me about it. But one of the major areas in which our team is investing resources is better container monitoring and monitoring for your container orchestration tools. So we're actively right now developing our Kubernetes integration that's now going to provide you with monitoring context for the logical layers of your Kubernetes clusters, along with association with the underlying physical components, and provide you with the application context as well as the infrastructure context of things. More multi-cloud integrations. So today, as New Relic Infrastructure stands, we have five Azure integrations, and we're actively developing more, as well as 25 plus AWS integrations, which are moving at a fast speed. However, we're not done. The next cloud that we intend to target is GCP, and we're currently actively forming a team that's going to build these GCP integrations. More on-host integrations. So in addition to Cassandra, Nginx, MySQL, et cetera, and these on-host integrations that we have, we are actively working on integrations like RabbitMQ, Kafka, Zookeeper, et cetera. So basically, you can now leverage the performance of these components that support your infrastructure in addition to your cloud integrations, as well as your underlying host compute metrics. Broader operating system support, so broader OS support. As we move towards supporting a modern dynamic infrastructure, we definitely want to support our large enterprise companies that may be in a pre-cloud migration or pre-cloud adoption stage. Therefore, we plan to incorporate broader operating system support so that our customers can leverage New Relic Infrastructure before, during, and after their cloud migration seamlessly. And lastly, we know how much our users love logging into the UI for every tiny thing. So we hope to form more APIs, more API support, and more SDKs for things like alerting, actionable insights, resolution, et cetera, within New Relic Infrastructure. So infrastructure has been generally available for 11 months now, and we've seen some great traction. As Lou mentioned, it's New Relic's fastest growing product. So if you haven't checked it out, I definitely recommend trialing it today. We have over 3,000 active customer accounts using infrastructure today, including large enterprises to small startups that are just starting up with their dynamic infrastructure. So definitely recommend checking it out and providing feedback. To get started, you can simply go to newrelic.com/infrastructure and start our 30-day trial. We have install modules for Chef, Puppet, and Ansible to help you get set up quickly. And the installation takes less than 60 seconds. So you can hold me to that stat. Thank you.